All right, welcome to Violent Minds. My name is Mark Chauppetta. I am your resident private eye, private dick. And sitting next to me at a location unknown is Dr. Keith Ablow.
Worldwide Violent Minds headquarters. Okay, so that's where I'm sitting. I'm a forensic psychiatrist, writer, life coach, and Mark Chauppetta's therapist, life coach, consultant, consigliere.
Yes, I am a client to Dr. Keith. I am not only a hair club member, but I'm a client to Dr. Keith Ablow.
Deals with Hair Club. We should get deals for them to give us some love. Give us a beautiful piece.
Right, I'd wear a wig for this, honestly. I would go.
We got to start getting some sponsors, dude.
Well,
like, right? Hair Club for Men.
What's that?
Hair Club sponsored by Hair Club for Men. Why not? And then midway through each podcast, we don and dramatize the life-changing nature of a Hair Club for Men piece. Do
you really think hair is life-changing though? I see. If I was going to have a sponsor on, if we're going to have sponsors on the show, and if anyone wants to A, be a guest on this show, or B, be a sponsor on this show, all you have to do is go to violentminds.com. That's our website, and you can reach out to us directly. But, doctor, I would think that I would rather have, I just recently bought something called the Skull Shaver. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I've seen that.
Yeah, it's easy to hold, and now I would rather have the Skull Shaver as a sponsor as opposed to putting a rug on my head.
That's why I love being your partner. That makes more sense, especially because I actually did go. This is sort of self-revelation here to indicate that violent people should call us. You can't just be like a regular person and be a guest, buzzkill. But if you are a violent person, or you were very violent, or you're thinking of being violent, then we want to get inside the minds of people who are at risk for that. But just to get inside my mind a little bit. So this is years ago, prior to the talk show, which is 10 years ago. So we're talking like 15, 20 years ago. I go to this, it was called Envisions, I think. I forget, I'm not sure. But in any case, I go and I say, I've seen your ads. The ads were unbelievable. Like you'd never know, okay? Because they do a thin membrane and they melt it to your head in some fashion. And then each little hair is in the thin membrane. It's impossible. You can separate the hair. It's like, oh no, he's definitely got a full head of hair. Anyhow, so they had me interested until they say, well, of course you get two, because you got to come back every 3 months and we heat this, melt it off again. The fixative then dissolves, and then they put on the next one, and then they go repair the one they took off. That was a bridge too far for me, because now I'm like, okay, every 3 months I'm going to have to look at myself and my foolishness and how vain I am. I'm going to be driving to like Braintree to some mall to have
strip mall.
Listen, while you're at it fixing my hairpiece, there's a little place where my dog scratched it over here. You can't live like that. And what if someone finds your alternative piece, which you are required to store? What if you're dating somebody and she opens a drawer? There's the hairpiece.
But you're Dr. Keith Ablow. You could probably get, some decent money for one of your wigs.
Yeah, well, maybe so. But also I was named, I don't know if you know this, and I hate to boast, but I like it. I was named one of the 50 sexiest bald men alive by People magazine.
Yeah, but
me, Seal, Bruce Willis.
Really?
Yeah.
50 sexiest bald men
alive.
Where were you on the list of 50? Come on.
I think I was in the lower quartile. I was in the lower 12 and a half people. Right. But
you know exactly where you were.
I forget, actually. I was happy to make the list, but of course the qualifier makes it like you're not on the big list, right? Like the big list is just the 50.
Yeah.
Then there's like the 50 guys who sell shoes who are sexy, the 50 bald guys who are sexy, the 50 guys who wear Nike shoes, you know, whatever. So anyhow, I was one of the bald guys. I don't know if any of the bald guys made the main 50. Interestingly enough, I don't know if Bruce Willis was like also one of the sexiest men alive. But anyhow,
I do get compared to Bruce Willis a lot. I have to say, I don't know why. Maybe it's just my ruggedness, or you know,
I see that. I can see
motherfucker. I don't know.
I can see that. I think like what you want to do in order to have a good day is think like you slim down the category. So you're like, okay, I am definitely one of the 10 sexiest bald Jewish psychiatrists in Massachusetts. Right?
Yeah,
for sure.
Yes.
So you just got to get your category narrowed down.
I don't know any other, but so I'm picking you. But I mean,
there you go.
And I'm probably one of the sexiest bald. I was gonna say dicks, but private dicks in Massachusetts. I actually have a friend, my best friend. In the world. I won't mention his name, but whoever's watching, he knows who that is.
Why? This is weird. There's like a mystery. Why won't you mention his name?
Because he gets that. Well, he's very proud of it, but I don't know how many people know.
I see.
He gets the heated hair treatment.
Oh, he does?
Yeah. You know, and it's funny. Like we grew up together, and you know, when you have lifelong friends, sometimes you have gaps in life. You don't see each other for 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever. You know, so I popped into his place of business once a few years back, and he greeted me, and said to my wife, I'm like, why does he look different? And I said to him, I said, hey, what's up? What's up with the look? He's like, you didn't notice the hair. I'm like, damn. He's like,
dude, I just realized. Yeah, so it looked good, right?
Yeah, but the thing is that he still had his hair on the side, which was
that's not good. That's very bad.
And it was dark on top, so they were blending the gray in with the dark. But now he goes back every few weeks, or I think every 3 weeks he has to go, and they age it. They add a little salt and pepper into it.
Yeah, it's craziness. You don't want to have that maintenance issue. You just do what we do. Just do what we do. By the way, I just realized something. We're so lowbrow that like we don't even have. I'll order them for us. Violent Minds. Like, what's wrong with us?
100%. I will. I'll have my.
I'll order them up.
All right. I'll have
hats too. Why not hats? Hats are great because Violent Minds on your head, right? We'll sell tons of those. Maybe the podcast isn't even the thing. Maybe it's the garb, the garment industry.
Speaking of garment, you know,
I love Violent Minds. Yeah, as a
great name. And we're going to get into what the hot topic is that's going on in the news right now, and that's the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but I will say
we're so much more interesting than Kyle.
Right.
But anyway, we should talk about Kyle.
We will, but I want to ask you something. So I said to my wife the other day, because we were both kind of discussing like changing up our looks a little bit, kind of going through that like midlife crisis phase. Like my wife wants to dress a certain way, and because we were buying some clothes for wintertime. Winter's here. I was doing a little shopping online, and I was talking to her if I should, kind of change my look a little bit. And so I was kind of like Googling looks for like bald 50+ year old men.
Yeah.
But it's I kind of go with the sporty stuff. I'm fit, I'm muscular. I go with ball caps. I go with jeans and t-shirts and show off my guns and all that. So I'm like, should I do a fedora cap? Should I go like Sly Stallone's got this really great black fedora that he wore in his movie.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like absolutely not. You're not going to wear that. She's like, you want a rubber ball also bouncing around you? So.
Right. But you're looking for something iconic, like a symbolic item that you always wear. Like,
whether it's
had the white
glasses or, because I need to get some prescription glasses. So I'm like, why don't I go with like the thick, dark Buddy Holly glasses?
Yeah, that would be good.
But she didn't like the idea.
That's not a bad option though. And or there are people who wear the same thing every day, like a black turtleneck every day.
Right.
Or I don't know. I'm going to think about this and come up with some options for you.
The viewing audience, come up with some options. Like right now, like I should be sporting a Violent Minds t-shirt or my charity, but I'm actually wearing
Super.
my Rocky Balboa sweatshirt because last
Wow,
night,
so great. Where did you get that? I like it.
I got it on his store. He's got his own shop.
Very nice. I like it.
Guy's a marketing genius, and I actually
cool.
last night sat and watched and ordered on demand the director's cut that I just put out of Rocky versus Drago, it's called. So it's a director's cut of Rocky 4 that he did during the pandemic that he just released to his fans. And
well, this is a good segue, by the way.
Yeah.
Rocky. So we've got a guy, Kyle Rittenhouse, who you would have sworn would be strung up, life in prison. He's got, an AR-15 or whatever, and he's
AR-15,
and he's walking the streets of wherever. Kenosha, and
place in Kenosha, Wisconsin. He's from Illinois, but he's just over the town line, only about 30 minutes into Kenosha, where his dad lives.
Right, and he's presumably there, he says, to help restore order or render first aid. He's activated by the riots that are unfolding. And he ends up killing more than one person and wounding another.
Yes, and shot 3 people, 2 fatal.
And you would have thought, like, this guy's going away, like, for life, but there's so much more to the story. And the story unfolds, I think, in his favor.
Yeah, you know what? I'm a defense investigator. My job as a defense PI in helping the defense counsel put on their case is to, obviously we come up with a theory, we come up with an objective. How are we going to paint a picture of our client and the crime that he committed? And, obviously his legal team, and based on what I've seen from the trial this week, bits and pieces on television, they've prepped him really good. They prepped him really good for the stand. They're clearly went, because they just rested closing arguments. When this airs on DB&A television, there's going to be a verdict, which we're going to know of, and it's going to probably have some trickle-down effect that we can talk. But they're clearly going with the whole self-defense angle, and it's obviously the only thing that you can go with here. So we can talk about that, and if self-defense was justified, but then there's all the moral stuff that goes with this.
Well, let me ask you, so I get inside your work, the pace and the sort of the context that a private investigator actually works in. So if I were to hire you as a member of the defense team for Kyle Rittenhouse, and there is a survivor of his shooting, these 2 people died, they're not available, sadly. The third fellow says he inadvertently pointed the gun, he had a gun, a handgun, inadvertently pointed it toward, say, Kyle Rittenhouse's head, but meant nothing by it. Nonetheless, he's alive. So if I were to say to you, dude, you've got to give me chapter and verse on this guy. We've got to know who this is. Is this a threatening guy? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, 100%.
How do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I would try to speak with him, but more than likely, obviously, he's lawyered up and well, he's protected through the state. He's not going to let me talk. I would dig into his history. I would, as an investigator and as a legal team, you have access to running his record. You'd start off by pulling his whole history, his record, his criminal history, possibly file some motions to get some mental health records, on the individual, and just start hitting the pavement and start pulling those documents and seeing who he's been involved with in such and such crime.
Sure.
And then interviewing those people. What?
I can hire anybody to do that. What else are you going to give me? What's on the menu? If I said, look, there's an unlimited budget here. We've got a legal fund
You can't
set up.
hire anyone else to do that, doctor, because anything that comes up or anything that I discover, then my licensing and my background is going to make it credible, you know, in a court.
All right.
Just like you, when you've testified on numerous trials, hundreds of trials, you know, in your career as a forensic.
Oh, absolutely. Well, no, I get that, but surely there's like, you know, surely there's some special sauce, like there's a la carte items where if I said, Mark, there's no limit here. I want you to talk to everybody he knows. I want you to, what can you give me? Are you allowed to do, you're allowed to do that, right?
Yeah, I'm allowed. I'm pretty much duplicating everything the police, you know, have done.
Okay.
You know, in providing the checks and balances for the defense, and make sure that the police perform their job properly, because as you see in a lot of these cases, sometimes evidence is a little bit skewed. Yeah, anyone and everyone in his whole history and his whole background to prove that this guy was violent, that this guy was not credible.
Right. So can you knock on the doors in the neighborhood? Can you knock on the doors in the neighborhood? And
you can knock on the doors in the neighborhood, but the issue here is that Kyle Rittenhouse didn't know that guy at that moment. So, you know,
no, but he has a history.
Yeah, but a lot of that background information isn't really relevant because at that moment they just engaged each other for the first time ever in their lives.
Well, but I mean, if the guy who got shot by Rittenhouse and who is alive happened to get into a bunch of fights and was a bully in the neighborhood, you'd want to know, right?
Well, yeah, 100% you'd want to know. And, you know, video surveillance obviously has played a huge role in this case that law enforcement was able to obtain. As the defense side as well, we would also go out and look for our own video evidence, and there's video everywhere. And I believe the video evidence in this case has played extremely favorable towards the defense and extremely favorable in proving that he was acting in, well, believed to be, or them presenting their case that it appears to be he was acting in self-defense. You know, I struggle with this. Like, I'm a defense investigator. My job is to try to help prepare my clients who are accused of serious crimes, sometimes, you know, heinous crimes, you know, for the attorneys that hire me. But then there's the other side of Mark that, you know, kind of hovers a little bit in the middle, you know, politically. You know, I do have a strong, I think, character, moral side to me. I do put a wall up sometimes when I'm dealing with cases that I struggle with morally, and I have to tell myself that it's my job. It's what I do. I can't judge. You know, I can't not, you know, a lot of people have come to me over the years, or a lot of people have said to me that ex-cops that say, I can't do what you do. I can't do criminal defense. I'm too jaded. I'm too connected to the other side. You know, how do you work the dark side? How do you work for the scumbags? So yeah, I mean, as an investigator, there's no real secret sauce, because we also have to do things within, you know, the legal ramifications, especially on a case like this that is so high profile.
Yeah, right. I mean, but if you knew, like, if you knocked on a door in the neighborhood and they said, yeah, well, I used to date this girl named Katie Smith.
Then I find Katie Smith. You
go find Katie, and Katie says, you know, thing about him is he used to beat me.
Yep.
You're starting to get closer to something to be used in court.
Right.
Now, are you allowed to say, Katie, I know your time's valuable. Here's a couple hundred.
No,
you can't do that.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, that's potential witness intimidation, or it is
intimidation. Or something, coercion or something.
Coercion, witness intimidation. No, not absolutely not. Have I?
Absolutely not. Have I? No,
have I done certain things? You know, there's the $100 bill trick. You know, and I'm not talking on my criminal cases, on some of my private cases that maybe involve hotels, motels, on maybe domestic cases, cheating spouse. Have I gone in and said, hey, look, here's a half of $100 bill. you get me some surveillance footage of this guy walking in with this woman,
Sure.
and you call me, you get the other half of this $100 bill and a piece of tape.
There you go. There you go. So here's my take. I mean, you can tell me what you think, but if there's one survivor of the altercation between Kyle Rittenhouse and three men, and he says that before he was shot, he waved a gun in the direction of Kyle Rittenhouse's head. And if one of the folks who Kyle Rittenhouse killed has a criminal history, which he does, as a pedophile apparently, then I don't see how this doesn't stack up as self-defense. Do I think it's wise to, grab an AR-15 and head for the riot when you're a minor? No, I think that's crazy. But
and again, the right side, the left side, the whatever, the right side is painting him as a Second Amendment vigilante.
Right.
They're saying
or
that
Second Amendment defender of the city, whatever.
Right, because the government failed to do their job, is what some certain pundits are saying. The government failed to do their job.
They did.
Right. They allowed these riots to happen, millions of dollars worth of damage, people hurt, other people killed, all because of it's all from obviously we know the Jacob Blake case that happened, prior to that is what's spearheaded, these riots and all the protests in the NBA or whatever was going on. But this kid sees this on TV, he sees it on social media. He goes and gets an AR-15, has no training, no experience. It's an illegal gun. He didn't cross it. The media is playing it out like, it's a big deal that he crossed the border. He crossed state lines. He didn't cross a border. He didn't go from one country to another. He went 20 miles.
And it was legal for him to carry that in that state, apparently.
Excuse me?
It was legal, apparently, for him to carry it in that state.
In that state, but not the state that he came from.
Okay.
So, and I know there's been a lot of tension in the trial. I know the prosecution has been, up to their tricks. That's their job. So I struggle with this kid. Like, this kid's an idiot. He's not the white supremacist that they're painting him to be. He killed two white people.
They haven't shown any evidence of. Well, first of all, he didn't kill a black person.
No, but that was left out of the media.
It's all white people killing each other here.
Right.
So, yeah.
For the most part. So is this kid guilty of something? I think his brain is underdeveloped, or I think he's. Was he legitimately going there to protect businesses, from the looters and the rioters? At 17 years old, he's some sort of a superhero. I mean,
there are some people like that. I've met people like that who have, I don't know Kyle Rittenhouse, and he certainly looked emotional to me on the stand. But, there are some people who have odd attraction. I'm not going to say that they have like an Asperger's-like condition, but there's some people who fancy themselves like defenders of, or I am part of this group that believes ... And, I can see how a 17-year-old could get swept up into thinking it's my self-image. I was a Boy Scout. I was an Eagle Scout. I was this, I was that. I go where there's trouble. Now, I don't know that he was all those things, by the way, but I could see how he could feel that way.
Well, he wanted to be an EMT. He did a police cadet school or training or something, I think, when he was younger. But I try to look at it like a situation like this. I try not to look at it as a private investigator. I try to look at it as a parent. And if that was my kid.
Yeah.
I'd be like, look, all right, you shouldn't have gone there with the rifle. You shouldn't have gone there, period. All right. You had no business being there. You're just adding to the situation. It's not your job. And I know that law enforcement they were on stand down and they weren't able to do anything, but you're a 17-year-old kid. It's not your job to go there and try to save the world.
Right.
You know, you are defending yourself, but you put yourself in a situation, but now a situation where you have to defend yourself, but you shouldn't have been in that situation to begin with. So is he somewhat culpable?
Well, I don't know these. I think if you're following the law, the letter of the law, and someone tries to kill you, it doesn't matter what you were doing.
Right.
Like someone tried to kill you, you can kill them. That's the law. Secondly, everything historical context. So in other words, like if this 17-year-old were 15 and it were the Revolutionary War, and he grabbed a gun and went to the green to fight the British,
right,
we'd be applauding. Wow, what a kid. What a kid.
Right.
Right. Now here, some people believe that's where we're at.
Right.
This is going to devolve into a civil war. And God forbid, by the way, God forbid, knocking on wood. But if it ever did, we'd say, oh, well, yeah, but that's what people are doing. Like, so Kyle, that he was just a forerunner of the fact that your average 17-year-old now has a gun. And, you know, whether you're from whatever you'd call it, new America versus America, there's a war here. Now I don't know what the background of his family is. It doesn't matter to me what his motivation was to go there, unless his motivation was, I'm going to kill some people.
Right.
But there's no evidence of that.
Motivation was, and I don't think they were able to prove that. I don't think the prosecution was able to prove that was his motivation to go there to actually hurt people. I think it was proven through the defense that he was there to protect the people whose livelihoods were getting destroyed by a bunch of rioters. And, you know, I mean, overall, it's a failure of our government that this kid is even in this position, you know, and even having the inclination or thought to even go there with his buddies. You know, in one breath, it's admirable, and the other breath, it's stupid. So it's kind of that conundrum, you know.
It's not what you would. It's not what you, I guess, it's not what you would hope for your kid to find himself in the midst of that and to think, I'm going to grab an AR-15 and this is a good idea. At some point, I suppose we could find our culture in such a place that not doing so would be seen to be odd. Like, in other words, here we are, you're in your city, I'm in my town. If it were burning and businesses were being looted, are we all to stay in our cottages and apartments and suburban dwellings and simply watch it unfold? Looks like they're breaking in and stealing some Gucci over there.
Right.
Or are we supposed to say, no, absolutely not? I don't know why the police aren't responding, but I've got a bat and I've got this and I'm not letting it happen. And I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
Do you?
No, and we have a right to defend ourselves and our property. And at that point, it was kind of no holds barred. No one was doing anything. The police weren't doing anything. So for the prosecution to say that this kid came there to try to, you know, intentionally hurt people, it seems to be that they're forgetting what was going on there to begin with.
Yeah, forgetting. And look, it's sort of like you take your victim as he comes. You punch somebody who has a heart attack. You just committed murder.
Right.
Yeah. You let a city burn. And you start breaking all the windows, and you get people like Kyle Rittenhouse in the world who say, well, the law says I can go with my AR-15 or my dad's or whatever it is and defend the stores, and I'm going to go do it. Well, you know, the inciting incident was, oh yeah, you rioted and you set the city on fire, remember? Now there are people in the world who will see it as their responsibility to react. You can't then chase them, try to cut their heads off with a skateboard as someone like tried to, you know, hit his neck with the skateboard, then someone's pointing a gun at him. I'd be saying, thank God. I mean, if it were my son, I'd say, well, I suppose I wish he hadn't gone, but I'm certainly glad he didn't go without the wherewithal to defend himself from an apparent attack upon him that could have killed him or led him to be, suffering a closed head injury that would alter the course of his life forever. By the way, as I'm saying that sometimes you have to take violent action, I'm looking at John Lennon over your left-hand shoulder. I feel like he's judging me. You've got a John Lennon poster or something in the
yeah.
Looking at me. As I'm saying, it's okay to take the AR-15, maybe. He's looking at me. He said, remember all this? Yeah. It's
give peace a chance. John Lennon was the ultimate.
Amazing.
Amazing, way ahead of his time. So again, this case is, and I understand it's the prosecution's job. I see it every single week in court when I'm in court. It's their job to paint this kid like he is the most horrendous person on the planet. I just think failed. I think the prosecution, exactly. I think they have failed. I think the judge has, Judge Bruce Schroeder, whatever his name is, has had his Judge Ito moment this week, right?
Yeah, he was great, I thought. He's pissed. He's defending the rules of law. He's like, you are not going to comment on whether this young man took the opportunity to say nothing to you and make that sound like that's implicating his guilt. It's in the Constitution. That doesn't imply guilt, idiot.
Right.
This guy's like a bad apple. This lawyer is a bad dude.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mind saying that. He's willing to throw the Constitution under the bus.
100%. And this kid has a right to defend himself. And you're 100% right. When it comes down to what they're trying and what this case is about, it comes down to, was he legally justified to shoot these guys or not? I know that I'm kind of throwing stuff out there like he shouldn't have been there to begin with, but when it comes down to what's going on in the courthouse, it doesn't really matter. It matters about, was it a justifiable shooting or wasn't it a justifiable shooting? And based on all the evidence and based on the lack of prosecution, I believe that they're going to get a not guilty unless the social pressure has trickled into the jury.
Right. Now you look at my buddy Curtis Sliwa, right? Who,
yes,
I think they're going to get a not guilty. I hope. I don't know. Well, there's something else to talk about. Like they say there are going to be riots if he's found not guilty.
Yes.
What are you talking about? Didn't we just visit that? That's how this whole thing happened.
That's why it started.
So now we're going to have more riots.
Yeah. If
he has real ones, you can't say things like if he has real balls.
Right.
But I guess I said it. If he does, he should go again. Get the AR-15 if there are riots over your verdict and go right into, then he's going to be vice president of the United States or something. In other words, like if the kid repeats and he's like, oh, riot, I go.
Right.
People will be like, what? This kid, he's just absolutely undefeatable.
And if there's no law enforcement, then it's martial law. And if and again, it goes back to, and we could break this down and analyze it forever, because it goes back down to obviously politics. It goes back down to their government, back to the government. It goes to the funding of police, and them not doing anything. I don't sit too much to the right. I don't sit too much to the left. I try to have a.
Why don't you pick a side already?
Well, you know what? I do lean to the right.
Okay.
Obviously. I do lean.
It was partly tongue in cheek, but it's like what Ayn Rand said, the man in the middle is the problem.
Well, I do lean to the right, and I do vote. If you look at my voting history, and I'm sure people can find that, I do tend to vote towards the right. But I forgot what I forgot what my point was with.
So you tend to be in the middle, and you said that if there's martial law, in other words, if there's nobody defending the streets, you got to expect someone's going to fill the void, and it's going to be guys like Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, Kyle. Yeah, and he's going to go down as a folk hero. He's going to go down as this poor kid. He's getting treatment for PTSD, and this kid's going to be, if he gets in an acquittal, he's going to be a multi-millionaire, and then there's going to be civil lawsuit after civil lawsuit, for all the defamation that's gone on all the way up to the top floor with our president of the United States, who seems to have drawn a conclusion that this kid is a white supremacist. I don't get it. I struggle with all this stuff. I get that there's racism out there in the world, Doc.
Sure.
I know that it's still here. But my ex-wife, my first wife, my kids are half black. I mean, like, I've been in that world. I've seen certain things. I just don't know why society wants to still continue to cause all this divide, and then any black individual that might be conservative is just painted as a
well, I'll tell you why they want to cause all this divide, but I think you already know what I'm about to say, but they want a divide because if they can keep people at war with one another and at war with themselves, by the way, even wondering what gender am I, if they can keep you high, wondering what gender you are, hating other Americans, blacks hating whites, young people hating old people, Medicare, that's not fair, this isn't fair, men hating women, women hating men, then nobody's going to be vying for real power with the intelligentsia, the elite, the Obamas running the world at the G20 summit or whatever. So it's just, what they're doing is basically saying, you guys keep busy with crazy sex, drugs, gender issues. Let us make the money. We'll sell the lithium from the mountains of Afghanistan to the Chinese while you guys are trying to figure out whether to get a plastic surgeon to castrate yourselves and be women. That's the agenda. And it's very clear what the agenda is. That's why they hated Trump, the hyper male.
Right.
Cheeseburgers. Right. Saying, fuck the Chinese. Right. Exactly. Right.
Well, now we're in bed with the Chinese, and
now we're really fucking them the other way.
Right. Yeah. It's it causes my brain overload. I try not just to look at one side. I try to balance myself out, but then I try to use my common sense.
That's good of you. Yeah.
To draw my own conclusions, in life. And, and I'll be honest with you, like, my daughter, she's 28 years old.
Picking you up finally? Are they finally coming for you?
Hear him? Yeah, this
Siren,
this is Brockton, the city of champions. There's been 3 shootings, I think, this week in the city. Although I don't get involved until they actually catch someone and arraign them. not to poke fun at and I'm probably a child abuser, because back I used to kind of have an ongoing joke, and I say that lightly, because back when my kids were little, if they wanted a new Xbox or a new PlayStation, I'd always say, you got to wait till another murder case lands on Daddy's desk. That's a payment.
I like that.
But
so if Brockton if Brockton were a fire in flames, a bad verdict came down, you were working with the defense, an innocent person accused of murder, it was self-defense, and now they're completely decimating your town, your city.
It happened last year during all this. Brockton rioted. My daughter lives in a condo complex near the police station here in the city, and she was luckily up on the 8th floor watching it happen below her on the ground outside outside the police station. And I was saying earlier, I've seen, my daughter has made me be a little bit more aware of how the world is, because my daughter's half and half. She's half Italian and she's half Cape Verdean, which technically is considered black. And she shared with me some of the things that she's dealt with, in her life with racism. And I try to talk to her about it to see if it's stuff that actually happened, or is she seeing things through a different type of a lens, more of a skewed lens. But I take the benefit of doubt, when I talk to her. And We've all faced it. We've all faced racism. I told my daughter, I go, you know what? She goes, Dad, you don't know what racism is. I'm half black, I'm half white. I never knew where to fit in growing up at the high school. I'm like, well, you never shared that with me when you were younger, and we were always so close. But now this is something that was suppressed within yourself, and because of the climate in the world, now all of a sudden, is that, what I mean? Is it something
Yeah, sure.
something that actually happened, or is it something that that society has now kind of instilled into her brain, and she's like, oh yeah, that actually did happen. But
right. Well, we just want her to feel powerful, safe, self-reflective, which, she'll get there, or she's there now. I'm sure she's
there. She's
your
amazing.
daughter. I'll never meet her because you'll never introduce me to her.
I'll introduce you to her. She's the most amazing, smart, bright young woman, on the planet. She's
That's great. What's she up to? What's she want to do? What's she doing?
She works for Dunkin' Donuts corporate in the fundraising.
Oh, neat.
So she's an educated woman.
Very cool.
My son-in-law is a prison guard here in Walpole. Great, super great kids. But what I was going to say is, when I told my daughter, she goes, Dad, we were having this heated discussion. This is all kind of taking place back during when everything was going on, and just the worlds were colliding. I mean, they still are. And she said, you've never faced racism in your life, so you really don't know what it's like to be able to say something. And I said, well, you know what, honey, you're 100% wrong. I go, when I started dating your mother, they're from a different culture. They didn't talk to me for a year.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Year.
Yeah.
Well, that was I was the first white person in that family. That was racism. If you
sure it wasn't your personality.
I think it's because I was, thinning my hair, and I should have been bald back then, but it could have been my personality. But now I can't get them to shut up. It was
your race. They didn't want her to be with a white guy.
Didn't want me. Yeah, didn't. Yeah, 100%. So I actually felt what that was like a little bit in my life. But no, my daughter's amazing. She's a super well adjusted young lady who respects her daddy, and all my kids are amazing.
Nice.
Speaking of my kids, you know what? So, and we can talk a little bit. My youngest son, amazing kid, super smart, semi-indoctrinated because of the educational system that's going on here in Massachusetts. But that being said, super great kid. So he just auditioned this week for a major Hollywood movie. So we're hoping to get
it. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, a movie starring Paul Giamatti.
I hope he gets that. That would be great.
Yeah, you know what? I hope so too. So he had a script sent to him here in Boston, because it's I can't really say much, but it's being shot here in Massachusetts, and they were looking for high school kids that have the the New England accent.
That's good.
Ben Afflecks of the world. We nowadays, when you audition for something, you don't go into the casting company because of COVID world. So I have to set up my office or my house like a studio, and have a ring light and shoot it and have proper lighting, unlike this podcast, and upload it and send it in. So we're hoping, and that's kind of where the conversation came a little bit with my wife when it came to changing my look. I'm like, look, if I'm going to be, my son's going to be a Hollywood actor, and I'm going to be like, bringing him to set, like, I think I need to have a different look for this. And she's like, get over yourself.
Yeah, probably true. Probably you have to get over yourself. But I don't know. I think if you're going to go there, you either get sort of one iconic thing that is your new prop, or something you love that's always with you, or you go like 180 degrees from where you are, and you start wearing like an Armani suit every day. But I'd be so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable.
I hate suits.
I mean, I've worn one for a long time.
When I broke into the business, one of my first jobs when I was working as a apprentice private investigator, I was given a $2,000 Armani suit back in the early 90s. And I worked security at the front door of the Armani store in Boston.
Wow, cool. Very interesting.
Talk about dealing with a bunch of pretentious, uptight. Oh my Lord.
I know. I think I was shopping there at that time.
Were you?
Yeah,
I would have been like
in my imperial days. No, I'm only kidding.
I would have been like 22. So you were probably like 27 and
or like 77.
Just got out of
27, I wasn't buying anything expensive.
Yeah.
But anyhow, back to Rittenhouse.
Yes.
How many movies, now that you've mentioned your son and plugged your family and all your
I want people to get to know me a little bit. You know, this is what
Okay.
it's all about. My daughter listens to this. She's going to be like, Dad, what the F?
Yeah, right. Well, okay. But anyhow, yeah, I mean, right. You should have the kids come on sometime.
I will.
Fun.
I'm
have them as guests. Let's do it. I'll do the analysis and we'll figure out just how much you've influenced them and whether positively or negatively, and we'll no holds barred. But in any case, back to Rittenhouse, how many movies do you think will be made about Mr. Rittenhouse? And maybe the answer is 0 because only half the people are going, depending on your perspective. Like if it's elite liberal Hollywood making the movie,
right? Who's going to make the movie?
Be like this lunatic who grabs an AR-15, who ends up being exonerated by this racist society of ours with the lunatic judge. And if it's
Disney's certainly not going to do it. They let Gina Carano go. She is, but maybe some conservative, filmmaker. Maybe probably the same amount of movies that I've watched and enjoyed on Richard Jewell.
Fox could do it. They could do like a made-for-TV special event, whatever. But it's dangerous. We've gotten so shy. Everybody's so scared to say what they think.
Yeah.
Like you can't go out and talk about Dunkin' Donuts. You sit at a table at your average Dunkin' Donuts, at least in Massachusetts, and say too loudly, boy, they're really trying to screw that Rittenhouse to the wall. That kid did nothing wrong. You may be in a fight. You
very clearly could be in a fight and
throwing munchkins.
Right.
Honey dip munchkins.
Right. Well, that's salt with a deadly weapon, especially if they're like day old munchkins. You can get,
what? I got to tell you an insight I have that people are going to enjoy. Yes. So I happened to be at a party with a guy who owns a bunch of Dunkin' Donuts. Mm-hmm. And I said, how is it? He said, it's challenging. I said, why? Why is it challenging? He said, well, the biggest reason, honestly, is munchkins. I said, it's munchkins. Now, who would have predicted? And he said, yeah, because as many times as you tell the cashiers that munchkins are not free, and they're not free to us. They feel as if they should give the munchkins away, right? If you buy 20, it's one thing, but every little kid who comes in, here's a munchkin, here's a munchkin. He said, you can go broke on munchkins. That's how thin the margins are at Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. That whole food cost margin. And then if you order 24 and they end up throwing in, 34, And
now, by the way, with this inflation, which is being, fueled by the lunatics in Washington, the crazy people in Washington printing money.
Yeah.
Like some supplies are up 50% to restaurants. We haven't even seen it yet.
That's the reason why there is inflation, because the value of the dollar is, is shit now,
But you can't unpack the cargo ships with munchkins on them or whatever. I mean, they're not munchkins in there, but the cargo's sitting out there. So anything that makes a munchkin skyrockets in price because there's not enough of it because it's sitting on the ships. And there's nobody to work at Dunkin' Donuts. So like you got to hire people for $50 an hour at Dunkin' Donuts. Now a munchkin is, $1.50 for a munchkin. It's not.
But what they do is, instead of munchkins, they make them kind of like mini munchkins, and you kind of cut back on the dough a little bit. And that's how they get you,
By the way, mini munchkins, you should tell your daughter that because she works at corporate at Dunkin' Donuts. You should tell her, I think mini munchkins would sell. I think people want mini munchkins.
Right. And the whole munchkin thing is just, it's just like, it's like buying a pack of, it's like getting a Diet Coke with a pack of Twinkies. It's like, all right, I'm going to eat some munchkins. It's not going to be as bad as eating a whole donut, but then you eat 10 munchkins.
So now I don't know if all these segues work or if it's going to seem like we have ADD, which we do.
Yes.
But talking about branding and
Yes.
products, how much would Kyle Rittenhouse sell his name to a fledgling arms company? Let's say there's one on the bubble.
Yeah.
They make guns and they're called, Joe's Guns, right? And they're made in Ohio or wherever they are.
Yeah.
If you start Rittenhouse Arms,
yeah,
forget about it. You're going to the moon. You do a public offering of Rittenhouse Arms, you're going to raise $1 billion in one of these newfangled SPACs, right? Where they just start a company. They say, you're going to have to trust us. We're starting a gun company. It's called Rittenhouse Arms.
Yes.
People would fund that.
Right. And you know what I would do?
I bought some of that Trump stock, DWAC, DWAC. Yeah, but anyhow, go on.
I was thinking of buying some of that. I think what I would do is, I know the family has been really struggling, and you can see it in you can see it in the face of the mom on the news. Rittenhouse, she's obviously been, tortured by this for the last over a year. But I think if he's acquitted, and again, it has nothing to do with, all right, so this is what I would do. If he's acquitted of these charges and he walks scot-free, I would then turn around and ground him.
Okay, well,
and that would make me feel better. All right. So the law says is this, take all the other surrounding factors out, and you just have him against the victims. All right. And if it was self-defense and he's acquitted of these 3 charges, I think there's 3 or 4 charges, great. But then there's the moral conviction at home. And, I would make him rake the lawn extra. I would make him, I'd ground him. I would ground him. I would have to feel that way morally to do that as a parent, to feel comfortable, because he still did violate certain.
I don't know if we know what their sort of map is in terms of their ethical framework.
I was saying, if that was my child that did that, okay. All right, you justifiably shot these people, you got off, but you broke curfew, you went into the town that you were supposed to be home studying, doing homework, you're grounded.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons he struck. I don't know him, right? But the way in which I feel he had a bit of a panic attack, they're like, was he crying? Were there real tears on the witness stand when Kyle Rittenhouse testified? Yeah. I don't think it's a matter of tears. I think it looked more to me like a panic attack.
Yes.
Difficulty breathing, difficulty speaking, sweating. And so, the truth is that part of the trouble here that he'll have to work out in the future with his counselor or whatever is that it is the case that had he not gone there, what's the likely outcome? Well, windows would have been broken, rocks would have been thrown,
businesses looted,
merchandise would have been looted.
Yep.
But those 2 young men, would in fact be alive. And were they the heart of evil in the modern world? No, they were idiots too.
Yes.
A bunch of idiots running around, breaking windows, thinking they're powerful lunatics. And he's a little different, Kyle, obviously. And so what happens? A bunch of stupid people end up in the streets, and 2 guys are dead and 1 was shot, and Kyle's in treatment for PTSD. I think if these parents thought about it, they'd say, we're all parents. Yeah. Right. This sucks.
And I feel bad for the parents of the victims, because they're people too, and those are their children.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's terrible all the way around, and 2 wrongs don't make a right. And but again, this has to do with the legal system. This has to do with our, with the judicial system. This has to do with stuff that dates back, how many years?
Well, you've got the president of the United States commenting, but this started with Obama. He did the same thing, commenting on a case in a state rather than a federal case. Right. He's commenting, and he's professing that he knows the party to be guilty. This is outrageous. the president of the United States. I remember I wrote an article about that when Obama was president, and said, this is outrageous. The president of the United States thinks it's appropriate to influence a jury in a local matter.
Well,
influence a jury anyhow. Shut up.
Well, when Biden was running for president,
shut up, by the way.
Right. When Jacob Blake was shot and paralyzed, Biden gave a statement saying that, there needs to be a transparent, investigation into that shooting. And that's what he needed to say back then. But
who would say the truth? Who would say the truth? If you asked Hunter Biden, instead of Joe concluding something too quickly, as much negative press there is on Hunter Biden, if this were self-defense and someone said otherwise, he's constitutionally unable to contain himself and would have said, give me a break. Like, you got to be kidding me. And if someone said, can you comment on this? He'd be like, comment? I'm president of the United States. What are you talking about? Are you an idiot?
Right.
Joe apparently is so invested. I'd say he appears to be invested in that same narrative. What can we do to cause people to be in chaos and conflict with each other so we can get done what we need to get done at a very deep state level?
Yeah, you send the text message to LeBron James and you tell him to throw some idiotic comment out there.
I told him I told him I was on Inside Edition this week.
Yes. There's
my plug for myself. Yes. I used to have a talk show. Now it matters if I'm on Inside Edition. It doesn't matter. But anyhow, that's how the mighty have fallen. Anyhow,
with me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I love that though. And so, someone said, but LeBron James said he wasn't having a panic attack. He wasn't crying. I said, look, I'm not asking to play one-on-one basketball with LeBron James, and he shouldn't be interpreting whether someone's emotions are real on the stand. I can do that, but what does he know? And I said, it's even hard for me to do it because I'm a Republican. So I even am aware. I'm like, okay, Keith, wait, when you're looking at the camera, at the TV, don't let your Republicanhood influence whether, right? But I don't think LeBron James is saying, well, look, I'm an activist for Black causes. I gotta try to exclude that as I think panic attack, maybe. Well, stop, play basketball.
Shut up and dribble, isn't that what they say? But this is America, and he does have a right to voice his opinion. he just influences a lot more people.
Keith Ablow.
Because he's famous.
I may go with Lakeith. No, Lakeith, not Keith. Like LeBron, Lakeith.
Keith Ablow.
Yeah.
He's a nationally known pundit figure. You can check him out on his website, which will be running below this. So it's power to.
Yeah, it's indecipherable actually. It's pain to power.
Pain to power. Which you can.
Or Keith Ablow. Just go to keithablow.com.
Just go to keithablow.com. Make sure you go to violentminds.com. Check me out. If you need to hire me for anything, or if you just like to talk, or
I want you to investigate me. Do people do that?
Yeah, you know what? I get called all the time to investigate people of, I was once hired to be, and we got like 2 minutes, we gotta wrap this up. I was once hired to be the lead investigator on what was called a dream team of investigators to follow around Morgan Freeman.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
cool.
I don't have a problem saying this. This was many, many, many years ago, and my role was of the kind of the crazy one. The case never materialized because I believe he got into some sort of a motor vehicle accident down south.
Oh, right.
With his mistress. So the whole case was exposed, and ultimately what we were looking to try to figure out, it was figured out by his lack of driving or not paying attention on the road. So so if you want to hire me for something like that, by all means. But on that note,
all right,
we gotta wrap this up. You hold on a second. As you know the drill, violentminds.com. I'm Mark Chauppetta, your resident private eye. Dr. Keith Ablow. my new partner in crime and friend. And if you want to be a guest on our show, make sure you send an email to us. And as this show evolves, it's going to get a little bit more crazier and I guess a little bit neurotic. You got to try to reel me in every time I go off down the wrong road, Doctor.
I'll catch you before you fall.
All right, everyone, you have a blessed day. And when this airs, we're going to know what's going on with Kyle, and we'll see what happens, and we'll see what happens with the world. On that note, peace. Be good.